On a dusty plain in southern Italy, the greatest military machine in history walked into a meat grinder. 80,000 Roman soldiers marched onto the field that morning, confident of victory. By sunset, 50,000 of them would be dead, cut down in an area no larger than a city park. They weren't killed by a larger army, but by a single mind that turned their own strength against them. This is the story of Cannae, the perfect battle and the deadliest trap ever set. To understand the slaughter, you have to understand the arrogance of Rome. Consul Varro didn't want strategy. He wanted a collision. He packed his legions into a deep, dense block. His plan was simple: hit the Carthaginian center like a battering ram and break it instantly. Hannibal, outnumbered and far from home, knew exactly what Varro would do. He placed his weakest troops in the center, not in a straight line, but bowing outward toward the Romans. It looked like a mistake. To the Romans, it looked like an invitation. But on the wings, hidden by the dust and the formation, Hannibal placed his elite African heavy infantry. The trap was set. The sun was in the Romans' faces, and the wind blew dust into their eyes. The battle began with a roar that shook the ground. The Roman bloc surged forward. They smashed into Hannibal's weak center. The fighting was brutal and immediate. Just as Hannibal predicted, his center didn't break. It slowly retreated. The Gauls and Spaniards gave ground step by step, drawing the Romans deeper. Varro saw the retreat and smelled victory. He ordered the legions to push harder. The Romans compressed inward, squeezing into the gap, eager to finish the kill. They were so crowded that men couldn't even raise their sword arms. The Carthaginian center had now bowed inward, forming a perfect concave sack. The Romans thought they were breaking the line. In reality, they were walking into a coffin. Then, the signal. Hannibal's elite African infantry on the wings swung inward. They hit the Romans from the sides. The crushing pressure began. The Romans stopped moving forward. The momentum died instantly. But the trap wasn't closed yet. The back door was still open. Miles away, behind the Roman lines, the Carthaginian cavalry had finished their duel. They turned and thundered toward the rear of the Roman infantry. The moment they struck the rear, the circle was complete. Panic, absolute primal panic, swept through 80,000 men. They were pressed so tight that many died of suffocation without being touched. For hours, the Carthaginians simply chopped at the edges of the trapped meat. It wasn't a battle anymore. It was an industrial execution. Paulus, the other consul, refused to flee. He died holding his ground. Varro, the architect of the disaster, managed to escape the slaughter. By evening, the screaming had stopped. The field was silent. 50,000 Romans lay dead. The flower of the Republic, gone. Hannibal had achieved the impossible, total annihilation of a superior force. His men collected the gold rings from the fingers of the fallen Roman knights. They poured them onto the floor of the Carthaginian Senate. A mountain of gold. Cannae is still taught in military academies today as the perfect battle. But for Rome, it was a lesson written in blood. Hubris leads to ruin. Rome would eventually win the war, but they would never forget the nightmare of the day the wind, the dust, and one man's mind defeated them.